All right, this is episode 139 of the Morse Code podcast. It's just me today. This is Sopee. No Dan. He had some other priorities, which apparently take precedence over this. We'll talk about that in our staff meetings. But with me is the host of Anything is Poddable, as well as Not Here to Argue, as well as not a host, but he will be hosting a courtroom at some point,
perhaps
very in the near future. Sam Jam Packard, what's up, man?
nothing much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you hopping on. We got the Celtics coming on. When is game one? Is that
Next Wednesday
next Wednesday? Okay.
against the Knicks.
Will you be in the building / are you a season ticket holder?
I'm not a season ticket holder. I have actually managed to dupe the Celtics into giving me media credentials. And so I actually get to go to most of the home games with the media credentials. So I've been very lucky in that regard.
How long have you been doing that for? How long have you been credentialed for? I didn't know that.
I think this is my sixth season. So when I started out, I worked for WEI in Boston, WEI.com, writing. I actually was a legitimate. I wasn't never a legitimate journalist, but I was pretending to be a guy who actually.
Hey, don't be so hard on yourself.
No, you should have seen some of the game recaps I wrote for WEI.com. They were awful, but that's how I kind of started doing Celtics stuff, was writing for WEI.com. And so I started getting credentialed that way. And I think that was Brad's second season as coach is when I started that. And then I kind of just built up a relationship with the Celtics that way. And so they knew I wasn't too much of a knucklehead and wouldn't get in trouble at the facility, and been going to games ever since.
So you were forged in the early Isaiah Thomas fires, is what you're saying?
Oh yeah, that's when I really kind of fell in love with the team, is being able to go to every game and then interact with the players and things like that. That's when I was really became a strong Celtics fan.
Okay, so was that the season? Actually, I was thinking that was his second season, but no, that must have been Isaiah when he got traded mid-season to the Celtics. Do I have that right?
Yeah, and they made the playoff run just to get absolutely smoked by the Cavs in the first round. That was the first year. I remember those playoff games thinking that they could maybe steal one, and then it was just LeBron was just no, absolutely not.
Yeah, because that was let's see here. That was LeBron's first year back with Cleveland.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. And the Celtics really messed up because could have gotten a better lottery pick that year. No need to go for the 8th seed, but it was just such a scrappy team, and Isaiah was just worked out so well. It was a lot of fun, but man, they I think that was the year they ended up drafting Terry Rozier, and not mad at a Terry pick, but I also think there's some I think Devin Booker went 14 that year, and so they could have had Devin Booker, but instead they went for the playoffs and got Terry instead.
Yeah, because I think that they had, I want to say that Terry was 16. Obviously, that math checks out because they were the 8th seed, but something around there. So, damn, that hurts a little bit to hear that again.
Yeah, but then we got Terry, who's probably the coolest player who's been through the Celtics locker room in the past 5 years. So can't complain.
That's true. That actually that brings me to my first question: Is Romeo Langford on the all-time Vibes team, and is this the quickest Vibes Hall of Fame inductee you've ever seen?
Well, it's interesting because I don't know what his vibes are. I just know he's kind of a space cadet. So I
think that's it. I think that's the appeal.
There's definitely an appeal. I'd want to hang out with Romeo, but I don't know if he's actively creating vibes. He's just in his own world in so much that he's not detracting from them. And he's just kind of there by osmosis. He sometimes just see him in his locker, just head completely down, and you think, oh man, Romeo's depressed, something's wrong with Romeo, and then you get a little bit closer and he's just watching anime on his phone. That's the type of thing that Romeo's doing. He's just complete space cadet at all times. It's I would agree, he's immediately someone who's just yeah, I like this guy.
He just nose deep or just reading the back of the Doritos ingredients or something. Just really intently.
Did you see his quote from earlier I think it was 2 weeks ago? He's I switched from number 45 to 9 because I look too fat at number 45.
I did.
Romeo Langford, no one has ever thought you were fat. Like, that's just an absurd statement. Like, you were one of the more in shape dudes. It's just like, all right, but you know what? I'll roll with you, Romeo, on this one. No, definitely. Why not?
Ridiculous statement, but I was like, you know what? He doesn't like the number 45. Recent American history. That's probably a good thing. So,
yeah.
I would say I feel like is Anthony Edwards at the top of the vibes list.
Oh
currently?
yeah, he just instantly came in and was cool, and like it's impressive for a rookie just to be able to answer questions and just come off and just like make jokes and be funny.
Yeah,
because that's an interesting thing about like talking to the players. It's kind of an awkward environment. You have a bunch of like just dudes standing around, like sticking a microphone in your face, and some players are uncomfortable with it. But Anthony Edwards was immediately just like in his zone, like in his groove, willing to like, he's just dynamic. I don't mean to bring up Terry again, but like that was one of the things that made Terry so cool, is that he was just like completely confident in all those moments. I'm a big fan of evaluating like what the dumb shit the Celtics put on the Jumbotron, like in between timeouts and stuff,
Oh, yeah.
like the dumb skits and like the answering questions. Terry was always the funniest one there because he could like answer questions and be funny. It's important. He's naturally comfortable. And I feel like Anthony Edwards has a kind of a similar vibe going, where he's just like comfortable in front of the camera and is definitely like knows he's the main character.
Yeah, it's almost like he turns it back onto the reporters, but he's more comfortable than they are.
Oh yeah, and like being playful and like being like, because some reporters, maybe one of them, you kind of get nervous like asking like approaching an NBA player with a question, and if they can recognize that and kind of like turn it back on you, it's like makes it so much more comfortable for them.
Oh hell yeah, I would imagine that makes it pretty fun. I don't know if you saw at Summer League. I say Summer League like it was like fucking 3 months ago, but it was like 2 weeks ago when they interviewed Anthony Edwards, and they're like, yeah, so what have you been working on this summer? And he's like, actually, I just learned how to swim. I did it at like Lake Minnetonka. So I'm like, already right there is just two hilarious references. So like he's probably got to be my favorite non-Celtic right now.
Oh, definitely. I think once Klay Thompson comes back and like can actually play again, he rises to the top of the list as a guy who's just very cool and is also good at basketball. But Anthony Edwards has the reins right now.
Yep. Big agree. So I didn't have this written down, but then like in your 6 years so far, who would be a low-key person that people wouldn't think would be a good interview, but was?
That's a good question. I don't know. I used to like Evan Turner's not low key. Everyone knows Evan Turner's hilarious. I'm just trying to think of like, so what happens is like before the game, before COVID times, there's a half an hour of availability. And normally it's just like mostly it's just like reporters hanging out in the Celtics locker room, and every Celtics player is just like wanting to avoid that area because they don't want to talk to the media. And like, I used to just park myself next to Evan Turner's locker because he would always be friendly and be a nice guy to talk to. I'm trying to think of like people I've actually talked to. Tice is like was kind of a shit stir and kind of a jokester. I wouldn't like ask him questions directly, but he was always talking shit to his teammates like while you were interviewing them, and he was a real cool guy. Javonte Green was a hilarious dude, just like a very funny guy. RJ Hunter was a very nice kid and would like actually give you kind of thoughtful responses. Those are the ones that I kind of think of top of my head, but it's actually been a while since I've like been in the locker room and actually talked to players.
What's that going to look like for you guys this year?
It's actually weird. So I went to the game on Saturday against the Raptors, and like you're not like allowed to like go up and talk to the players anymore. Like it's all like in a room, and only some members of the media like get to go to that. I, being a lesser member of the media, and like not in part of that group. So I actually went up to the top like of the Halo, which is where normally they like sit the extra press and things like that. But it was a Saturday night game, preseason game against the Raptors. And so I was the only guy up there. And it was like very bizarre experience because I was like, no one around me, but I was like in a full stadium watching a game. It was a like very bizarre experience where it's like, there's 18,000 people in here, but I feel very alone right now.
You can hear a pin drop where I was.
Well, it's actually like fun because normally like you're not allowed to cheer in the press box, but like at that point, like no one's judging me. But normally I like you look around and like you turn to the guy next to you and you're like, oh, that play was like you have some sort of banter during the game, but it was just me alone, like whatever, how many thousand feet above the stadium. It was kind of bizarre.
Have you ever had to fight off? And again, I don't know how this works, so I don't know if you guys are in the same areas. But have you ever had to fight off like Corrales or Jay to get to someone, or maybe like try to ask a question over them?
I see this. I don't have to do that because I don't really think of myself as a legitimate journalist. Like obviously on Poddable, I announced that I'm a professional sports fan. So when I'm actually at the games, I generally try to stay out of the way of people who's like actually trying to do a job there or have to write an article on deadline. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you get to sit near Corrales and Jay or Forsberg, and they're like way more famous than I am, and they're on because they're on television, and you have a bunch of fans coming and yelling things at them. But that's about like the most entertaining kind of interactions I have with them. That's or so if you see, I've sat next to Jay a couple of games, and he just gets excited. Like anytime Marcus Smart just starts launching threes, he's like, oh, it's coming. If you can get Jay, like to hear all the Jay King what he yells to himself during the game, that's probably the most entertaining.
Oh man. What do you expect? General expectations for the season?
I expect pretty good things. I'm pretty optimistic about the team. I think they just have very solid depth this year, which I think is pretty important in the regular season. I think like they were running out Shemi Ojeleye, Neesmith, Luke Cornett lineups last year. They're just awful. And I just think it's like they're bent. They probably have like 9 or 10 deep, just in terms of like solid bench players, and Schroeder, Richardson, Peyton Pritchard, Neesmith, Cantor. Like that's 10 guys right there if you include their starters. Then you can have Grant, Cantor, even if you want to allow that he's an all right player. Like I just think it's going to matter where it's like you don't have minute. Like they had so many moments last year. It was just like, all right, Tatum's not on the court anymore. How are they going to survive? Right. And so I just think it's going to be a pretty solid team that, with a strong defense. Like their starting lineup is just going to be huge. Jay was talking about this earlier, but it's like Marcus, Jalen, Jason, Al Horford, Robert Williams. All of those guys are big for their like position right there. Like they're going to be very hard team to score on. So I think with just defense and depth, they're going to be in a lot of basketball games this year. So I'm thinking like 3rd or 4th in the Eastern Conference is like what I hope to happen. What I think can probably happen.
Yeah, I probably have them in the same ballpark, especially with, I don't know if you've heard, but a couple of the marquee teams in the Eastern Conference have some players who have, I don't know, been in the news or something.
Are other teams having issues with their point guards? I don't know.
We'll get to that because man, there's even recent developments last night. But I heard you and Jay talking in. I didn't get to listen to all of today's episode. Hand up, that's on me. But I did re-listen to your last episode like a week or so ago. You guys were talking about Hernan Gomez. What do you think his role is going to be, and why did he have to choose number 41 like Kelly Olynyk?
That's a good question. Why did Matthews take Tice's number? It's like it's very confusing. I don't know what Juancho's role is going to be. Like he's not a great 3-point shooter. He's tall. That's pretty good. Like being tall is good.
He is good at being tall.
Yeah, and he's like just backup minutes. It was kind of weird that he started in that first preseason game. He had a pretty solid pass against the Magic the other night, just like on a roll, finding Neesmith in the opposite corner. But I think the Celtics just wanted size, but there's a reason when I just mentioned that they're 12 deep, that he was not in that first 12 people I named, because I just don't. If he's playing a lot of minutes, something has gone wrong, personally for the Celtics. So I think he's just like, maybe if we need a guy who's over 6'8" at any point to kind of come in and be a backup, then we'll turn to Juancho. Or if we just want a more attractive Spanish man on the court, just for like it'll like change things up, then we can also turn to Juancho.
Oh yeah, he's definitely got some flavor to him.
Yeah.
You guys were talking about what was it? When was the last time that the Celtics had a fight, by the way? I thought I should
Yeah.
add this. The last time that I remember a fight was actually either Kelly Olynyk versus Kelly Oubre. Do you remember
Oh
when they had that?
yeah, Kelly
One
Oubre
of them
flipped his
charged the
shit.
other one.
No, it's definitely Kelly Oubre flipping out and just pushing Kelly Olynyk. Yeah, that was a fantastic moment in that series. Oh man, I forgot about that. Was the same. There was a lot of violence in that series. That's the same series. Jay Crowder booped John Wall in the nose.
So that was going to be my other entrant into that question. Yeah, it was he mushed the shit out of his nose.
He lightly booped it so hard, it was so disrespectful. Like, if you're gonna mush my nose, you push your no, but Jay Crowder gave a soft touch.
Yeah, it was enough to leave a fingerprint.
Yeah, Cheeto dust all over John Wall's nose.
Yeah, the Celtics team is definitely pretty deep. I mean, the other thing that I remember you guys saying, and me and my co-host Dan said this a lot last year, was that there were just way too many players on this team who were only borderline NBA players, and they were getting substantial run with this team. They were like players, whoever was considered 8 through 10 on the depth chart on this team was probably like 12 through 15 on another team. Agree?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's actually kind of beneficial now because it's like Peyton Pritchard played a lot of minutes last year. Grant Williams played a lot of minutes last year, and they were asked to do way too much because they're just like young players. Now, with kind of more veterans on the team, they have a lot more experience and clearly know what they're doing, but are going to have so much less required of them. And so I think it's like you gave an opportunity for these young guys to grow, and now they're you're asking putting them in a role that's like much more appropriate with what their current skill set is.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really looking forward to Pritchard and Nesmith this year, seeing them take the second, the jump in the second year of their career. I thought Nesmith played so well at the end of last season, and now it looks like it just looks like he hasn't missed a beat, and he just continued to play basketball every day over the summer, and he looks so much more confident. And I think that was his only issue in the beginning of his year last year, aside from him just being like throws himself around like a crash test dummy or something.
Well, now he's like has the same energy, but he has a little more finesse. And I think he's from the same town in South Carolina as Chris Middleton. So I saw like them doing a bunch of workout videos together. But like he pulled off some moves in the Magic game where he just he was driving the lane and stopped and pivoted and like did a fadeaway. Aaron Nesmith as a rookie didn't know how to stop. Like he was just like right at the rim. And so like him trying moves and stuff is definitely showing progression in his game. And like, that's awesome. That's like the kind of the stuff you want to see a player add in the offseason. So I'm big on Nesmith this year. I think he might actually end up the year starting. I think Al Horford's going to start at the start of the season, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if like Nesmith ends up being in the closing lineup, just because if he can be a reliable 3-point shooter, I just think the offense will be that much more dynamic with him in the game.
Yeah, big agree. I would love to see that. He's another low-key vibes guy. I remember his first interview with the team. I think someone was telling him about like the local restaurants that were around here, and he's like, "Wait a minute, there's no Zaxby's? You fucking kidding me?"
Yeah, he's a country boy. Grew up on the chicken coop, like just as a farmer, green bean tractor boy. Like he's a cool dude. He's a nice kid. But yeah, definitely a strong vibes candidate as well. I kind of like all the young guys on the team. Like there's no one who has like a bad personality or who's like a you don't like. You just it's very easy to root for all of them.
Yeah. And that play that you mentioned, I was like, is that Jaylen Brown? The fuck?
Definitely has some Jaylen Brown moves that I just like. It felt like Jaylen just added those to his game like 2 years ago, and now it's like Nesmith doing it. It's like, I welcome all of it. Yeah. Anyone who can score like that is fantastic.
They do call it a copycat league. Actually, they say that about every league, but all right. Let's go to bad vibes. And the rest
about Enes Kanter?
Hey, what is his contract? Like what did we get him on?
I think it was just a 1-year vet minimum. So his vibes could be it's like the minimal amount of hurt for Enes Kanter.
Okay. It's crazy to me just because like he is so good at the one thing that he does, which is get like garbage points underneath. And he is a good rebounder, but he couldn't be more of a stiff, like defensively.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's like, that's the thing is like, he's going to get like just toasted in pick and roll, but then like you accept that. And then you also accept like, oh, he's going to go on a stretch where he scores 8 to 10 points in like 4 minutes and like get 12 rebounds, half of them off of his own misses, but like, it's still good. Like, yeah, you take the good with the bad. And it's just Ennis being Ennis. He's going to say some dumb stuff because he's a bit of a camera whore, but that's just like, that's just who he is.
I always remembered when he was on the Knicks, and I feel like he's been on the Blazers like 7 different times in his career. But I just always think of like, that guy does put up a double-double when you give him minutes, but man, his weaknesses are glaring.
Yeah, it's just trying to figure out the best way to like utilize his good sides in like whatever 6 to 8 minute stretch you can. And so as for a backup center or like a third string center, why not? I have no real problems with Ennis.
Yeah.
It's just fun to make fun of him because he's a big goofy bastard.
I usually do that with, and I hope you're not offended by this, but I typically do that with Grant Williams on this show.
Well, Grant's no longer big. Grant has slimmed down. Grant lost 15 pounds. So
yeah,
he's definitely a goofy bastard. You're absolutely right there. Very goofy guy.
I mean, I have noticed that, not only does he look smaller overall, but he doesn't have that Yabusele ass anymore.
No, and it used to be like his shoulders used to be and chest used to be huge, and he's just like no longer, just doesn't have the same frame as he used to. It's like, I think he's hopefully going to be faster and like a little bit better, like moving quicker on defense, but you also wonder if it's going to like affect him because I think one of his strong suits is just like being a big body and like kind of not being someone you could really post up. So be interesting to see. But I'm all for anyone just being like best shape of my life because it's such a NBA like preseason cliche. But he actually does look in the best shape of his life. He looks like he's like seriously down 20 pounds.
Oh my God, that's such a good point because every summer we see that post from fill in the blank. And
well,
then you see them.
I mean, Tyler Hero gained 15 pounds of lean muscle this year. So, I mean, that's the other way is you can either be up with lean muscle or you can have lost 15 pounds. But no matter what, best shape of your life.
I haven't seen the pictures of that. Does that look to be true?
For Tyler Hero?
Yeah.
I don't know. He looks exactly the same to me.
Okay. All right. There was Enes Kanter, I think, is wearing number 11 again. Supposedly, we were never going to see anyone else wear that number until the previous number 11 left. What do you make of the Kyrie? I mean, it's fucking something new every day. But did you see the Instagram live video?
I did not watch it. I just saw quotes from it. I saw some quote that literally made my brain hurt, where it's just like utter nonsense. And it's like the least surprising thing in the world. Like Kyrie absolutely starts sentences and has no idea where they're going to end and just does total word vomit nonsense. Like in the time covering him when he was with the Celtics, you would stand there and you just not know what the hell's going on and not, it's just very unclear like what he's trying to say. And he thinks he's making some genius points. It feels like he's on mushrooms but like no one else is. And he thinks everything he's saying right now is clicking. Like he thinks he's got some nice stuff and he like gives you a wry smile when he looks up like, yeah, I just got you. And then you look back at the transcript, it's like, that's it, sir. That doesn't make any sense at all.
What is happening right now?
So that's basically what the whole situation is like, I'm not anti-vaccine, but I want to not comment on it whatsoever. And I want to be a voice for the voiceless, but I'm also not going to answer any questions about and use my voice for these people. It's just gobbledygook. And he like says a bunch of things that are controversial and then will say, I hate the controversy. I hate hoopla. But then like deliberately do things that are like going to cause hoopla. He just seems like a contrarian for the sake of being contrarian. And at this point, I'm here for it because I don't think he's going to play for the Nets this year, and that's all right with me.
I would have loved to see if there was like while there was a camera on him answering questions from you and anyone else, but also there would be a camera on you guys being like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Like, I feel violated after that answer. I don't know what just happened.
There is definitely just like, so the way there's like scrums and stuff, and you definitely, if you're in the back of the scrum, you kind of look over at the other reporter and just go, did he just say that utter fucking nonsense right now? And then they're just like, yeah. The worst is I feel bad for like the legitimate journalist guys, because they have to go back and like they transcribe all of the quotes they have so they can like use them. And they like usually like they team up and they call it team transcribe, but like they actually have to go and type out. And it's like kind of hard when someone's saying like a clause next to a clause and then like they just don't relate and just none of it makes sense. It's very hard to type it out and figure out what the hell he's saying. And he just rambles on for paragraph upon paragraph. And it's just like, one, none of this is usable. Like, I'm not going to use any of these quotes in a story I'm writing. And two is like, what am I doing here? I'm transcribing the thoughts of a madman. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like interviewing the fucking Joker or something. And it's like,
the Joker had a more coherent like thought pattern. Like at least you could follow what that guy's belief structure was.
I feel like anytime you read an article and you see those brackets that are kind of like parentheses, but they have the pointy thing in the middle, I feel like there must be a lot of those used by the transcription team, because they're like, absolutely, we don't know exactly what the fuck was said here, but here's an idea.
The gist of what we're thinking. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest part was him saying that he doesn't want to be a distraction is the most hypocritical thing. And he reminds me of like the kid in school who, if they're like, you know, you got to write a paper and it's got to be at least 5 pages. And Kyrie's like, well, how do I stretch this into 10? With just absolute nonsense. Or no, he'd be like, I've written 2. That's all I got. But what are the other words I can use to stretch it to 5?
Yeah. And let me increase the margins a little bit and then say, in conclusion, throw a bunch of like transition words there. And let me resurface this point. Yeah, absolutely nonsense. And it's like hand it in with the confidence of a man who knows he wrote an A paper. And really it's like at best a C- paper. But like he lays that on the teacher's table and just being like, you're welcome for getting to read this.
Yeah, you should be honored that I'm in your class, and you should be honored that I get to answer your questions.
I mean, like, to be fair to Kyrie, he is a basketball genius, like when he's dribbling the basketball. So like, if I could do anything as well as Kyrie plays basketball, I might be that crazy. Like, I might think like, oh yeah, like I'm this good. I'm better at controlling a basketball than anyone in the entire world. Like, I'm pretty special. Like, so whatever I think must be justified because I'm also able to dribble or have better handles than anyone in the world. Like, I don't know. I've never been that talented at anything. So I don't know how it changes your brain chemistry.
Makes 2 of us. I just feel really unconfident about everything. So I just hold back. Kyrie's like,
hold back. I don't talk unless I know strictly exactly what I'm talking about. It's a curse some of us have. Self-awareness.
He just... It's like that old saying that like if you're the smartest guy in the room, you don't need to tell everyone that you are. And Kyrie's never heard of that saying for sure.
No, I don't think he's ever been the smartest guy in the room though.
It sounds like Ben Simmons is going to be dribbling a basketball professionally. What do you make of that situation?
I don't know. I love that he just showed up without telling the Sixers, just like knocking on the door of the Wells Fargo Center, is like, I'm here to take my COVID test. I thought that was a hilarious move, but like, I don't know, Celtics Twitter has been calling him a coward for what, 6-7 years now. And for him to give up his holdout after 4 days, pretty much a coward move, man. Like, he didn't think this was going to happen. It's going to be very interesting because it feels like Joel Embiid was like, kind of, he didn't actually say it in the early preseason or like media day, but he's like, kind of was like, fuck him. Like, we don't need Ben Simmons. Like, it'd be good if he's here. So I'm like very curious to see like what the early season is like for Ben Simmons, if he actually plays, if he tries, or if he's just like trying to mess things up, kind of like James Harden did next year. Cause like, we have no idea what Ben Simmons is going to be like. He's a very moody dude. Like maybe the my latest theory is that just like the Sixers fans booing him, or it's going to be like finally the thing that motivates him. Like he just wants to be liked so bad, and now it's just like, okay, everyone hates me. Now I can actually just like focus on being a good basketball player.
Does he want to be liked though? Because it's been so long that this has been his Achilles heel, whether it's LSU or Philly. And he's just been like, nah, I can still date a Jenner with the game with the skill package that I have, or skill set that I have.
It's interesting because like people say it's like he doesn't want to take threes because he doesn't want to like be seen, like he doesn't want to miss them. And so like that's a crazy mentality to have.
You're a pro athlete.
I didn't say it was a good one. So it's gonna be fascinating because he's like always just been like a weird kind of moody guy, and I don't know. I'm just very excited for his first game if he does actually play, just for like how many batteries Philly fans are gonna throw at him.
Tub of mustard,
yeah,
maybe some Heinz 57 if he's lucky.
Philly fans are very good at telling a specific player, normally on the opposing team, fuck you. Like they're very good at chanting that in unison.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious to see how quickly the fuck you Ben Simmons chants start in the first Philly home game. He can't sit on the court. Like even if he's not playing, like he can't make himself public. It'll be a dangerous scene.
Oh my God. Just the bench having like shit lobbed at them for 48 straight minutes.
It would be wild. I want to be there for it. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, it was pretty funny that Embiid said, what was it? They asked him about like previous trades that they had made, and he essentially was like, well, we did all that to accompany Ben Simmons, and it didn't work, and now he's not here, essentially was what it broke down to. So I don't know. Like that team, obviously a team in dysfunction. Not to steal a phrase from Tyler, but is Doc Rivers in the Trick Y'all Hall of Fame?
He could be. He's lost 3-1, multiple series down or up 3-1. Interesting how he kept getting a job. He could be like he just seems to be a likable guy. We'll see like what happens this year, but I feel like he's the type of guy who's just going to keep getting a chance because people just like going out to dinner with him and like. Yeah, he's a nice guy. Why not bring him on board? Have Doc laugh and tell a couple stories with his raspy voice. Like that sounds like a good time. I'd like that.
Like I feel bad that I have to say that because I liked him when he was in Boston, but clearly there is something where maybe he's not the one, like necessarily he's not the cause of the problems, but I don't think he does the best job trying to put the fires out, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it clearly did not work in Orlando and did not work in Los Angeles. They had some bad meltdowns with the Clippers.
Him and like the whole triangle between him, Paul George, I think
Seth
Paul
Curry.
George's, Seth Curry.
And Seth Curry's fiance wife, who's Doc Rivers' daughter, used to date Paul George. Wild times going on over there.
And Doc Rivers was like, fuck it. You were an MVP candidate, so come to LA.
It's a players' league, man. Player empowerment.
And then
please sleep with my daughter.
And then apparently, I didn't know this until recently. I think he has like a strained relationship with Austin Rivers because I think Austin Rivers came out and was like, "Nah, I'm not close to my dad. He sucks."
Oh, that's a pretty bad indictment, but first time hearing of it, but sure.
But yeah, players coach.
Player empowerment.
Last two from me, because we're coming up on time here. Outside of 2008, with the Celtics title, what are your top 3 Boston titles? Favorite
Boston titles. Who? Not including the Celtics. Okay, so basically Patriots. The comeback over the Falcons has to be up there. Oh wow, now it's tough. The 2004 Red Sox are awesome, but like the ALCS was almost better than the actual World Series, so I don't know how to include that one.
Yeah.
The Patriots Super Bowl against the Seahawks was insane with Malcolm Butler. The 2013 Red Sox was cool, but mostly because I got to be there because I was actually a production assistant for MLB Network at the time. And so I got to be like in the stadium, and like I was on the field shortly after they won. So that was like probably the one I remember the most, just because I was like there. And I remember Shane Victorino that year, like they would sing Three Little Birds.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it was game 6 of the World Series. He hit like basically the clinching double or something like that. And then they sang Three Little Birds, and like the stadium was shaking. It was a clinching game of a World Series, and it's like everyone had snuck someone in. Like that was probably like Fenway was 5,000 people over capacity. Like the whole place was shaking. And like that's the thing I remember the most. Is just that was just like, talk about good vibes. It was like just Shane Victorino comes up, they sing Three Little Birds, and he cranks like basically a series clinching double, I think it was, and just like pandemonium everywhere. That's probably the favorite like in moment of the like last Boston titles.
Yeah, when you're there, it's a different experience. You were actually because I was at game 3 on Sunday. You were there too, right? I noticed on either Twitter or Instagram. Were you at one of the Red Sox games?
I was at the Red Sox Yankees playing game, the wild card game.
Oh, okay. So you weren't at the Rays series? Okay.
Unfortunately not. No, both great games that seemed to like be at.
It was nuts. I was at the 13 inning one. Are you going to be in the building for the LCS at all?
I don't know. I hope so, but that's my brother's thing. My brother's a way bigger Red Sox fan than me, and so anytime I go, it's like him just being like, I got tickets on a whim. He'll be the type of guy he'll get standing room tickets and just stand in the back and like score the game. He's the big baseball nerd, so anytime I go, I'm going with him. So I don't know at this point. What about you? Are you going to any of the games?
I think I am going on Monday, which would be
sweet.
game 3. So I'm looking forward to the series. Like I don't watch regular season baseball anymore. I used to, but playoff baseball is such a weird like disparity between regular season and postseason.
Oh yeah, and every pitch, man. Like that's the thing about like regular season baseball. It's like, oh, this random out in the 4th inning doesn't matter. But in playoff baseball, you're like, no, like we cannot allow a runner right now. Like everything is intense. And that was the great thing about the Yankees games. Like I was standing for the whole game, and like you get like a pop fly to the shortstop, and it's like, yes, that's the first out of the 3rd. Like let's go. like why is it this intense? But it makes it so much more fun.
Oh, strike 2? Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that was the best part about the game I was at. Is like there's this guy behind me who's pretty drunk, and he just kept on calling the umpire Bruce. And the umpire's name was like Matt something. He's like, oh, Bruce, what are you doing, Bruce? I can see this from outside, from up here. And just like, normally I think that's kind of obnoxious, but to keep calling him Bruce just made me laugh every single time. And I just loved the intensity of just like screaming playoff baseball. That's fantastic. Highly recommend.
Yeah. If you're listening to this show and you're a local, definitely get to a Red Sox playoff game because it's just different. There's the last one for me. How did you guys come up with the basic formula for Not Here to Argue? And when will you start arguing? Because I'm still waiting.
We are not going to argue. There is no formula for Not Here to Argue whatsoever. I didn't meet Tyler until the very first episode we recorded. Actually, I drunkenly met Tyler once when they were recording a mixtape outside a Sixers Celtics playoff game, and I just kind of like ran up and like dapped him up. But I've never ever like talked to Tyler. Not Here to Argue is basically Tyler emails me 4 or 5 links about 2 hours before the show, and then I have those pages up, and then I invite him into a chat like this, and I just press record, and then Tyler goes. And it's Tyler's show. Like, I'm literally not there to argue. Like if there's some basketball points, I'll like put my opinion out there. But I see myself as my role of just being like, no, Tyler's the talented one. Like, I'm just here to press buttons and say, yep. Like, I'm literally not here to argue. It's Tyler's show. Like, let the man cook. Let the man do what he does.
Let Tyler eat. No, you guys have a really good, solid dynamic. I feel like there's chemistry from the beginning. So that's why I was like, I mean, this must have been, planned or something. Like, had you already at least followed him before you met him and before the show?
Oh yeah. I mean, I was a huge mixtape fan. And I was like an avid mixtape listener. So I like followed him. We've had Coley on a couple times, so I know Coley more well. And so I definitely knew who Tyler was and like knew like what makes him funny and things like that. But I generally just have tried to kind of stay out of his way. And like Coley came on and did that episode. That was amazing because basically it's just like me getting to sit back and like basically participate in what my favorite podcast was, which is I feel like what all podcast fans want to do is like, it feels like you're just hanging out with the guys, but I was actually just hanging out with Coley and Tyler. So that was definitely like a cool moment because I was just a huge mixtape fan going in. And so getting to recreate that was awesome.
Same. I still go back and listen to like all the old ones. Like, so did you say that you do know Coley actually like Coley better than Tyler?
Yeah, just because I've had Coley on Poddable a couple times. Met Coley, like went to the Barstool office and did a podcast with Coley in person. So I've interacted with him way more.
Two of the funnier voices. Sorry, I forgot one thing. If you and Jay, I don't know if you saw that I posted this during your live stream today. You and Jay play a game of horse. Who wins? Because I've seen the games of one-on-one. Who wins a game of horse or ivermectin? And are there trick shots involved?
There would have to be trick shots involved if I had any chance. The thing is, Jay played basketball growing up. Jay's a better shooter than I am. Jay played college basketball. Jay's actually like a hooper. I play pickup a bunch, but I do not shoot. I'm not a guy who puts the biscuit in the basket. Jay would beat me in horse, I would say 9 times out of 10. And I would have to hit some crazy like trick shots to even try to like get in there. Jay's just way better at basketball than I am.
Okay, but what if you're allowed to dunk? As I'm sure you do quite a bit of that.
If this was 4 or 5 years ago, then maybe I could do that. If it was just like maybe a long distance race, like I think I could take Jay in a 5K easy, but like anything related to basketball, I think Jay's gonna win.
Hey, that could be a content idea right there.
Jay would absolutely never agree to do that. He's a pretty stubborn guy, if you haven't noticed. So anything he knows he's going to lose, he's not going to do
it. You're saying a 5K is one of the few things that is not Poddable?
I mean, we could podcast about it. Everything, literally anything is Poddable, but I don't think Jay's going to participate.
Gotcha. All right. Fair answer. Before I let you get out of here, where can everyone find you, social media, the show, and everything that you do?
At Jam Packard on Twitter. I'm making that push for 10K followers. Very important to be in the double digits. I've been stuck at 9,000 for like 3 months now. So I'm hoping to do that. And yeah, can find anything is Poddable anywhere you get podcasts on the Athletic app. We're actually going to, if anyone did not think I was going to be plugging the Athletic right now, but we're doing this thing where if you're a subscriber to the Athletic, where like our live post-game shows, we're going to do something through the app where you can actually kind of participate and we can like toss to you and you guys can ask live questions. So that's going to be a cool new thing we're doing this year. And then, yeah, so that should be pretty fun. And then Not Here to Argue is also anywhere you get podcasts. That's from Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code TRILL. You get free $10 to bet against me and Tyler. Or game of skill against me and Tyler.
Yeah, game of skill. I've been doing that lately on Sundays, and I do subscribe to the Athletic, so I'll be looking forward to the interaction there.
Yeah, it should be fun. We're hopefully rolling it out next week.
Sweet. All right. Well, that was episode 139, I think. Hopefully I didn't fuck that up. 139 of the Morse Code podcast. Sam, Jam Packard, thank you again for joining me. And go Celtics and go Sox.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. Everyone else, we'll catch you next time.